I sat in the divorce mediator's office, watching my soon-to-be ex-husband, Alexander Pierce, smirk as he detailed my limited career prospects to his lawyer. Beside him, Victoria Hughes, his VP of operations and not-so-secret mistress, kept shooting me condescending looks, probably already planning which of my belongings she'd throw out first. Now, regarding the settlement, Alexander's lawyer continued, given Mrs. Pierce's modest professional background. She's a secretary, Alexander interrupted, adjusting his Rolex. The one I'd actually bought him last Christmas. Well, was a secretary. To my first wife, ironically enough, can barely handle Excel spreadsheets. My lawyer, Rebecca Chen, raised an eyebrow at me. I gave her the slightest shake of my head. Not yet. Mr. Pierce, Rebecca said carefully, perhaps we should discuss the company's shares. What's to discuss? Victoria cut in. Obviously, any Pierce Global Holdings should remain with the Pierce family. It's not like she understands corporate finance. I suppressed a smile, thinking of the board meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, the one where Pierce Global would announce its new majority shareholder and CEO. After 5 years of my investment firm quietly acquiring shares through various subsidiaries. Speaking of corporate finance, I said softly, how's the Morrison merger going? Alexander's smirk faltered slightly. The Morrison deal was supposed to be confidential, his grand plan to save Pierce Global from its steadily declining market position. What he didn't know was that Morrison Technologies had been one of my first acquisitions. That's confidential company business, Victoria snapped, which you wouldn't understand anyway. Right? I smiled. Just like I wouldn't understand why Pierce Global stock has dropped 15% since the merger rumors started. Alexander's lawyer leaned forward. Mrs. Pierce, are you implying? I'm not implying anything, I said, just making conversation. Though it is interesting how many shares have been bought up by that new investment firm. What's it called? Phoenix Capital, Alexander muttered, his face darkening. Some upstart trying to muscle in. But don't worry your pretty little head about it. Focus on finding a new job, though I hear secretarial work is becoming automated these days. Rebecca cleared her throat. About Mrs. Pierce's employment status. I know, Victoria said smugly. It must be terrifying, being suddenly single with no real skills. But maybe you can find another wealthy man to marry. Thaw, she looked me up and down. You might want to upgrade your wardrobe first. That outfit screams clearance rack. I glanced down at my simple outfit, a bespoke Channel suit that cost more than Victoria's monthly salary. But Alexander had never noticed such details. Just like he'd never noticed that his simple wife had been orchestrating one of the biggest corporate takeovers in recent history. Actually, I said, I recently received a job offer. Let me guess. Alexander laughed. Personal assistant again. Or maybe you've worked your way up to office manager. Something like that. I pulled out my phone as it buzzed with a message. Oh, interesting. Pierce Global stock just dropped another 5%. Right before tomorrow's board meeting, too. How unfortunate. Alexander's face reddened. How did you know about the board meeting? That's confidential. Is it? I must have heard it around the office. You know how people talk to the invisible support staff. Victoria gripped Alexander's arm. Darling, she's obviously bluffing. She probably overheard us discussing it. Discussing it in your office? I asked innocently. Or in that hotel room you've been meeting in every Tuesday and Thursday. The color drained from both their faces. You've been spying on us? Victoria demanded. Hardly necessary when you expense a hotel rooms to the company account. But you might want to be more creative with the description than business development meetings. Alexander's lawyer shuffled his papers nervously. Mr. Pierce, perhaps we should discuss. No, Alexander stood up, his 6'2" frame trying to intimidate me. I want to know how my secretary wife suddenly knows so much about my company's business. Ex-secretary, I corrected. An ex-wife, soon enough. Though you might want to hold off on moving Victoria into the penthouse. Why's that? He sneered. Because the penthouse belongs to Phoenix Capital, along with most of Pierce Global's real estate holdings. Didn't you read the fine print on those refinancing documents you signed last month? The room went deadly quiet. That's impossible, Alexander whispered. Phoenix Capital is what? I stood up, smoothing my designer suit. Run by someone smarter than a secretary? Someone who spent 5 years watching you run your family's company into the ground while chasing younger women and making terrible business decisions. Victoria's perfectly glossed lips trembled. You're lying. You can't be. The founder and CEO of Phoenix Capital? I smiled. The same firm that now owns 51% of Pierce Global's shares. The one that's about to announce a new chief executive at tomorrow's board meeting. Alexander fell back into his chair. No. Yes, I said simply, though I did consider letting you keep your position, until I found out you were planning to fire half the support staff to fund your merger, right before Christmas, no less. The Morrison merger, he started. Won't be happening, I finished. Morrison Technologies has already agreed to a different deal. With Phoenix Capital, Alexander's lawyer frantically flipped through his papers while Victoria clutched her designer handbag like a shield. The mediator had long since given up any pretense of controlling the meeting, watching the scene unfold with poorly concealed fascination. This is absurd, Alexander finally managed. You're just a secretary who got lucky. Lucky? I leaned forward. Was it luck that helped me graduate top of my class from Wharton while working 3 jobs? Was it luck that built Phoenix Capital into a billion-dollar investment firm while you were busy drinking 3 martini lunches with Victoria? But the company events, Victoria stammered. You were always organizing the office parties, taking notes in meetings, because the best way to learn about a company's weaknesses is from the inside, I explained. It's amazing what people reveal when they think you're just part of the furniture, like how you've been falsifying expense reports, or how Alexander's been hiding losses from the board. Alexander's face went from red to white. You can't prove. Actually, I can. Every document, every suspicious transaction, every business development meeting, all carefully cataloged and ready for the board's review tomorrow. I turned to his lawyer. You might want to prepare for some SEC inquiries, by the way. Victoria shot to her feet. Alex, she's bluffing. She has to be. Am I? I pulled out my tablet, bringing up Pierce Global's shareholder records. Would you like to see how many shares Phoenix Capital has acquired? Or perhaps the real numbers behind that Morrison merger you were so confident about? Alexander's lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Pierce, given these developments. Shut up. Alexander slammed his fist on the table. This is my company, my family's legacy. Was your family's legacy, I corrected. Before you started selling off assets to fund your lifestyle. Did you really think nobody would notice how you've been hollowing out the company? The board trusts me, he insisted. The board trusts the Pierce name, I said. But after tomorrow's presentation about your leadership, well, let's just say that trust might be misplaced. Victoria's perfect makeup couldn't hide her growing panic. But your settlement demands, you asked for so little. Because I already own everything worth having, I smiled. Though I did enjoy watching you both snicker about how I'd end up with nothing. I'll fight this, Alexander threatened. My family's attorneys are already aware of the situation, I cut in. In fact, your father called me this morning. He's quite interested in how his son managed to lose control of a 100-year-old company. That hit home. Alexander's relationship with his father had always been his weak spot, the driving force behind his desperate attempts to prove himself. Dad knows. His voice cracked slightly. He knows everything, I confirmed. The affairs, the covered-up losses, the fake projections you've been showing the board. He was particularly interested in how you plan to blame the upcoming layoffs on market conditions rather than your own mismanagement. Victoria's hand flew to her throat. The promotion you promised me won't be happening, I finished, though you might want to update your resume. I hear the job market for corporate BPs with ethics violations is rather tough these days. You vindictive bitch, Alexander snarled. You planned this from the beginning. No, I said quietly. I planned to be a supportive wife, to help you build something meaningful. But you couldn't see past your own prejudices. You couldn't imagine that your simple secretary wife might actually understand business better than you. Rebecca, my lawyer, finally spoke up. Perhaps we should discuss the revised settlement terms. Revised terms? Victoria echoed weakly. Well, I smiled, given that I now own controlling interest in Pierce Global, plus all the real estate holdings, plus evidence of various financial improprieties. I think we need to reconsider the division of assets. Alexander's lawyer was already packing his briefcase. Mr. Pierce, I strongly advise. Get out, Alexander said through clenched teeth. Once everyone except me had left, he seemed to deflate. Why? Why go through all this deception? I didn't deceive anyone, I replied. You saw what you wanted to see, a secretary who married above her station. You never once asked about my education, my goals, or my business acumen. Even when I tried to advise you on company matters, you dismissed me as cute for trying to understand complex business issues. And now? He looked up, finally seeing me clearly. Now you'll destroy everything my family built. No, I said softly. I'm going to save it. No layoffs, no asset stripping, no more covering up losses with creative accounting. I'm going to turn Pierce Global back into something worthy of its legacy. Without me. That's up to you, I said, standing and gathering my things. You can either step down gracefully or I can present the board with detailed evidence of your misconduct. Your choice. The next morning, I stood before the mirror in my office at Phoenix Capital, adjusting my CEO nameplate. Below, the Pierce Global board members were filing into the conference room, unaware that their world was about to shift dramatically. My phone buzzed with messages from Alexander's family. His father wanted a private meeting. His mother suggested lunch to clear up this unfortunate situation. Even his brothers, who had always treated me like a charity case at family gatherings, were suddenly eager to discuss business opportunities. Ms. Chen, my assistant, appeared. Mr. Pierce Sr. is here. Send him in. I moved to my desk, surveying the city skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. William Pierce Sr. looked every bit the dynasty patriarch, silver hair, bespoke suit, and an air of entitled authority that his son had tried so hard to emulate. Catherine, he managed a tight smile. Or should I say, CEO Chen? Either works. Though you once preferred that girl who serves coffee at board meetings. He flinched. About that, and other matters, perhaps we could reach an understanding. Like the understanding you had about Alexander's mismanagement, or about Victoria's questionable promotions. Business, he said quickly. Just business. Surely a woman of your newfound position understands the need for discretion. I understand perfectly. You discovered your son was running the company into the ground, but rather than address it, you hoped a merger would save face. Now that you know who really holds the power, suddenly you want to negotiate. The Pierce name, he began, means nothing without the substance to back it. I finished. Your son made sure of that. A knock interrupted us. Alexander stood in the doorway, looking haunted in yesterday's suit. Catherine, please. William Pierce Sr. practically leaped up. Son, perhaps together we could. I think, Alexander said quietly, you've done enough helping with my career, Dad. After his father left, Alexander remained standing, taking in the office that dwarfed his own at Pierce Global. Phoenix Capital, he said finally, the rising force in investment banking. Built while you thought I was organizing office parties and taking notes, I confirmed, though you never did ask why I was so interested in those quarterly reports. He winced. I never meet. To treat me like an intellectual inferior, I finished. To assume I couldn't understand high finance, to let your mistress mock the wife who actually saved your company. I was going to say, I never meant to become exactly what you saw through an entitled hair destroying his legacy. I studied him for a moment. The sad thing is, I would have told you everything. If you'd ever shown real interest in my capabilities. If you'd ever seen me as a partner instead of a trophy you rescued from secretarial work. And now? Now, I pulled up the presentation I prepared for the board. Now you get to decide what matters more, your ego or your legacy. What do you mean? I'm offering you a choice. Sign the divorce papers and leave with your reputation somewhat intact, or force me to show the board exactly how you've been running their company. There's no other option. There's always another option, I said. Start over. Learn the business properly. Prove you're more than just a name. How? Junior analyst position. Every executive in my firm starts there. Learning the fundamentals, understanding real value creation, building something meaningful. Like you did. Like I do every day. I gestured to my analysis screens. Why do you think I still review every major investment personally? He was quiet for a moment, looking around at the empire his wife had built while he wasn't paying attention. When can I start? After the divorce is finalized. If you earn it. Not because of your name, but because of your potential. As he turned to leave, he paused. The company will still be part of your legacy, I said quietly, just not the way you imagined. After he left, I prepared for the board meeting, watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, Victoria was probably updating her LinkedIn profile. The Pierce family was likely calling emergency meetings. The board members were reviewing their portfolios. But here, in this office, in this company I'd built while being underestimated, I finally felt fully acknowledged. Not as a lucky secretary who married well, not as a Pierce wife, but as Catherine Chen, the woman who built an empire while serving coffee with a smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong. It's giving them a chance to prove themselves worthy of the success they thought they were entitled to. I picked up my phone and texted Alexander. Analyst training starts next month. Don't forget your calculator.